So Persona 3 Reload's been out for about a month now, and I figure, hey, why not talk about it? Now that I've gotten some time to get my thoughts together. And that's what this video is, because I want to talk about this game, because I love it, right? It's peak, as the kids say. Obvious spoiler warning for Persona 3, the games and the movies. So, be warned. And just jump right into it with talking about combat. Because this is probably like one of the biggest overhauls that they've done. Just everything relating to Tartars in general, but especially the combat was kind of overhauled because first of all, you have direct control of your party members, which obviously, right, they weren't gonna ship this game in 2024 with no party control, because it probably would have flopped like immediately, because people don't want to put up with the AI. I don't necessarily have an opinion. From everything I hear, it's, fast combat is, it's usable. You have like a lot more tactics in that game to try to wiggle your way around everything. But of course, no one wants to actually learn that. I can't say I blame them. I do want to tackle it at some point, fast with no party control, but I don't blame people for not wanting to learn the AI system of that game. But who cares? Because Mitsuru Marin Karin, am I right? But no, I think Reload definitely kind of nailed the combat. It's not as fast as like Five's combat. It doesn't have to be. That's not a bad thing. It's just an observation that it's not as fast as Five's. Just simply because of how summons work. With 5, as soon as you hit the persona button, your persona comes out. You hit the skill button, and like a second later, the skill's done, and you're probably on the next party member, right? With Reload, it's like you have to, you have to go to the menu, and then you have to select your skill, and then you do the summoning animation, and then the skill animation. But what they did do, which is one of the most underrated changes from the original, is that multi-target like party spells. So like example, like Media Rahan, it does one animation instead of doing 4 Dia Rahan animations like it did in the original. And God, that was so annoying. Like, you're like, oh yeah, I'll cast like Matari Kaja or whatever to buff my attack, and then I get to see every individual Tarikaja being cast because P3. Yeah, but no, combat is really solid. They definitely did a lot to it compared to like Portable, because I don't like Portable's combat simply because of the accuracy problem that game has. And it could just be a me thing. Maybe nobody else has had this experience with Portable, but I've played Portable enough to notice that the accuracy in that game is absolute trash. Because like obviously like you're gonna miss attacks every now and then. I'm not expecting every attack to have 100% crit rate. But Portable's hit rate is just pure trash. I don't know what it is about Portable's hit rate that feels so much worse than like Fest, Golden, or Royal. Like with Golden and Royal, I can probably count the amount of misses I've had on one hand. And then it's Portable, and then I go to Portable, and it's like, I need like 10 hands to count this shit of how many times I've missed. I don't know what's up with Portable, dude. There's something wrong with that game. Combat's really, really good. And in terms of difficulty, I was definitely worried about it pre-release. And now looking back on it, Merciless was definitely what I was looking for until like at the mid game, and then it kind of starts to fall apart. But it definitely kind of kept you on your toes at times, because you think you'd be fine, and then all it takes is like an enemy critting you or like hitting a weakness or something, and that could probably, I mean, maybe not so much with the weakness because you can just negate him, but like with the crit, like that's kind of not really in your control. Like it's funny because there's like a massive discrepancy between my like in-game save file time and what Steam says I have because of how many times I go a while without saving because I'm just grinding, and then I ran into an encounter and I got crit turn one and now I'm dead and I just lost all that progress and I have to do everything again. So it definitely feels like yeah, I think Merciless is definitely a good difficulty. Right? It was definitely what I was looking for, and it kept itself together for longer than I really expected it to, and then Theurgy just kind of came for the game, and all the passes and stuff. Once you got those, it's just kind of Which, speaking of, let's talk about Theurgies because good segues, am I right, gamers? I think Theurgies on their own, the most obvious comparison is the Showtime, but the thing with the Showtimes is they're a lot more in the moment. Theurgy, you can just kind of hoard, and I fully get why. But I think that also just kind of leads to most boss fights just ending up becoming like grind, like save up your Theurgy, don't use it, and then you get to like a floor boss and you just nuke the boss with all your Theurgies because they're stupid broken, right? They do severe damage if it's a single target. Severe damage and ignoring resistances. Like, why? Why is that a thing that you get in like June? I don't know why it's introduced so early, and I don't know why they give you the severe skills. I personally would have liked it to upgrade like with the persona. I think that would have been cool. So it starts out as like lighter, medium, and then it goes to high, and then it goes to like severe or whatever. Like it leveling up with the persona. And then obviously Second Awakenings give you like an entirely new skill. But I think definitely introducing some proper progression to the Theurgy system could work, and then I think the balance problems with Theurgy would be fixed. So the passives, on the other hand, oh my god, these passives. Yukari. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's absolutely dumb. Why did Yukari have 11 SP Media Rahan? Who at Atlas was like, yeah, that looks good, ship it out. Right, Junpei getting crit boost and damage, and him getting Brave Blade in late game just... And the fact you can put at people on him with an accessory, and then you can use Revolution. If they gave Junpei charge, it'd be over. You could probably solo the entire game with him. I mean, you probably can now, but especially if he had charge, I think it would just be over for any enemy that dared to come across your path. Right, Yukari's passive is insane, and because of this, her Theurgy has like probably the most uptime out of anybody because you do like one Meteorant, you just get half your gauge for whatever reason because fuck balance. And then there's Kormar, who has Automa Secunda, so you just automatically debuff evasion. They gave Shinji Auto Heat Riser, which is really, really funny, because by time you unlock it, you're probably close to October 4th anyway, so you're not going to get to really use it, which is unfortunate, because they actually did make Shinji pretty good. I can't recall a lot of the other passes, because none of them were really stupid broken. There's Aegis's, which is, I think, like a physical damage boost, I want to say. I don't have it in front of me. I probably should, but I don't care. But the thing is, like, most of them don't really seem to be that bad. It's just, like, there's just a couple that are kind of stupid. But I think the idea is nice. Just kind of needs a balancing in a couple places. And then the Theurgy system overall, I think is perfectly fine. It's just, I just kind of miss how fusion spells used to be. right? But they also don't want Victory Cry, Satan, and Hallel just wiping the later half of the game. But also at that point, like, who cares, right? Which, speaking of, yeah, MC, as you fill out your compendium, you'll get more fusion spells. And Scarlet Havoc, yeah, that's a theurgy skill. Totally not broken, especially if you Siegfried. Like, a lot of people, I think, caught on with how good Siegfried is because he's really, really good. I don't I don't know what they were cooking, but I'm glad because holy crap, he carried me through like November onwards. I think the only time I rotated to a different persona was when they nulled Slash. I think that's literally the only time I switched off of Siegfried. What is my cat doing? Anyway, I wonder if that's picking up. Anyway, sorry, my cat's meowing. If you hear him, I'm sorry. Theurgy, yeah. It's fine. It's whatever. They cut like so many fusion spells from the game, which is unfortunate. But also, I kind of get it because there was a lot of. It was definitely a crowded pool for fusion spells, especially when like you really like as novel of an idea as they are. Most of them were just kind of whatever, right? Most fusion spells are whatever. Most people are just spammed Armageddon and like Infinity if they needed it, right? Which sucks. So I do like that they kind of consolidated the list, but even then, like no one's using Cadenza, dude. I'm sorry, no one's using Cadenza in this game. I'm sorry, Atlas. I know that Cadenza's like your love child or whatever. No, it's not. It's not being used. I'm sorry. I think I used it once because I was mashing buttons too fast, and that's it. Oh yeah, and Fuka. Fuka's theory. I think Oracle's fine, and then you get to Revelation, and it's I don't know. Oracle feels like it's more consistent with getting what you want out of it because there's a very obvious way to kind of cheat the theurgy into getting what you want out of it. I kind of couldn't get that with Revelation because with Revelation, like I would have defense and agility buffed from Sylphidora, and then I would use the thing, and then I would use Revelation, and then it would give me like Party Heat Riser. But like, why? Like I wanted charge or I wanted, SP refill or whatever. So it just kind of feels like it's harder to manipulate because with Oracle, I would always pretty much get charge or like an HP or SP refill. I mean, yeah, Revelation's stronger. I think the party wide heat razor it might last a little longer. I don't know if it actually does anything. Charge a concentrator merge into one, and then you have the full HP and SP restore. But I do miss the ones where it would actually affect the enemy, where like the enemy would like be brought to one or something. But I guess that'd just be too much. I was like, I think Oracle and Revelation are fairly balanced for how often you're gonna get them because you're not gonna get them that often. Like you're probably gonna have them like once a fight, assuming you don't just start the fight with it. So it's just kind of like a one-time thing anyway. You're not really going to be relying on something like Oracle or Revelation, but it can definitely kind of come in handy and save your asset points. And then yeah, there's full analyze, and then there's all the little abilities that they gave her, which is really cool. And I actually used most of them. I think the only one I think I've used every single one of them. No, excuse me. I think I've used every one of her abilities like a fair amount. So, good job, Atlas. You did it good. um, yeah, I hope that's something that continues with the navs. Is that they actually have like abilities that you can use because that'd be cool. Give them a little more purpose. especially give their SP gauge usage, right? And now, time for the elephant in the room, or should I say the 260 floor tower in the room. Tartarus. Tartarus is I feel like is the number one thing that turned people off from P3 before, and that's understandable. Because Tartarus, to me, as someone who's completely numb to Tartarus, there's two major things against Tartarus that I've noticed. Is that number one, and this is probably the biggest thing, but the generation's just kind of ass with OG Tartarus. Because the issue that OG Tartarus had was the fact that the game had like a small handful of generation chunks to use when constructing a floor for every single floor. So you would literally just be going through the same generation for 264 floors. I mean, I know it's not exactly that, but like you get the point, right? You're going through the same generation and stuff. And then you go to like the visual differences, and it definitely picks up with the latter half of Tartarus, right? Zia, Haraba, and Adama. The visuals definitely get shaken up a lot more, but Arka and Yabasha and Thebel, I guess, just no, it's not it. Um, and then you go to Reload, and it's holy shit. The visual overhaul that they did to Tartarus is quite frankly insane. And from what I could gather is that each area had their own kind of generation like unique they have their own generation characteristics, right? Thebel is very reminiscent of the school and as such generates like a school with a bunch of long hallways, and you got some rooms that are kind of open. It's also very like made of rectangles and squares and all those blocky kind of shapes. It's still probably the most bland, but it's not as bland, right? Arca's vibe is insanely good. I mean, I feel like Arca's really when they kind of were like, yeah, let's go off the rails with this, and they did, and it's so incredible because Arca's vibe of like all the faces and eyes on the wall, and all the like kind of creepy little like architecture things that they have, and it's like kind of curvy, so you're always like making turns and stuff, so you never know what's around the corner. Oh, it's so good. It's really good. And then you go to Yabasha, which kind of feels like an attempt to do the Thebel generation, like the Thebel generation characteristics with like this like labyrinthy kind of vibe. And honestly, I kind of like it. I wasn't so sold on Yabasha like at first, but the more I went into it, it's like, yeah, I think I like Yabasha. It's not my favorite, no. I think my favorite it's probably like Arca or like Zia, but Yabasha definitely kind of feels like kind of like Thebel at times with its generation, but it's unique enough to where I wouldn't just call it like a Thebel clone. It's got its own generation and stuff, but it does remind me of Thebel at times, but it's just got that good kind of mood to it, right? I don't really know how to like describe it. Like, it's kind of construction-y. It's like it's being built, right? And you're kind of like it's constructing a labyrinth around you, which I mean is what Tartarus is doing, so it kind of nails it, right? And then you get past that and you go to Zia, which is like completely different from any other area that you were just in, because it's this like wide open space, and it feels nice to go through. Like, Zia really does feel nice to traverse, because like it's this wide open space with these pillars, and it's really really yellow, like gold yellow. It's 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 really good. It's probably my favorite one to traverse, honestly. Just something about it is just really nice to traverse. And then you have Haribo, which is for gamers because it's uh, um, unicorn puke. Is that the term? I think it is. Unicorn puke. It's rainbow. It's very bright. Is the point I'm trying to get across? It's a very bright area, and it kind of calls back to Arca's like kind of curves, I guess. But it's literally just that. Like there's, I think outside of the dead ends, there's like no between. It's like you're just going through a bunch of curves, and it's kind of funny. I kind of like it. Shadows do get a bit hard to see on this floor, but I think it's fine overall. It's whatever. And then you have Adama, which in my notes I just said is black and white. Like, what do I say about it? Because I don't know how to describe Adama. It's pretty looking. It also probably tanked my performance the hardest at times. It's pretty. It's very monochrome. I don't really know what else I'm supposed to say past that because I just don't know. Right. Um, the little like smashable items around the place. I at first I was kind of like, what is that gonna do? But that in combination with the dash makes, I mean, yeah, it's fun running up to a thing and slashing it and like maybe getting an item and then you go sell it and then you break money progression because you're grinding a Tartarus for 50 hours. No, I'm kidding, but no, it's cool having those little things there. And then sometimes you can get the special ones which give you Twilight Fragments, aka just let me pay for my healing, man. I mean, it's not a problem as you get through the game, you know, kind of like the tired mechanic. It's not a problem the later you get in the game, but definitely early game Merciless kind of sucks with Twilight Fragments because it's like I can't justify spending them on chests and stuff because I need to save them for the bosses because in order to not fall behind with my levels, I need to fight like every enemy. And so I'm going to be super drained of SP and there's no way I'm fighting these bosses with like no SP. So again, it gets better as it goes, but that early game kind of sucked. And while we're still on the topic of Tartarus, let's talk about Monad because I totally didn't forget about it until now. Monad got like a heavy rework, and I think it's for the better, making it a kind of challenge floor instead of orange Thebble with fucked up enemy encounters. I I do not like OG Thebble because its generation is somehow worse than anything Tartarus has ever cooked up for me. Like Thebble, like okay, like as I said earlier, I'm immune to Tartarus because I'm immune to monotonous JRPGs like grinding, right? I'm completely immune to it. Um, Thebble made me understand how people feel about Tartarus, but like 10 times worse because Thebble sucks, but it's also the best place to like grind XP. Um, in the original, and now it's like a challenge floor or multiple challenge floors if you're on a corridor. And I think that's really cool. And then it gives the block like a, like a red kind of red with it. I think Adama's is probably the best. Like the Adama Monad doors, I think, are definitely the best in terms of the visuals. But like the Yabasha and the Zia ones and the Harbo ones are pretty good. It makes Harba even more painful to look at, actually, if you can believe that, because now it's this bright red. Um, but I think Adama's Monad, like retexture, is definitely the better one. But yeah, they fixed Monad, they fixed Tartarus, they made the combat good. Um, the only kind of negative I have is the fact that there's no EXP for standby members, which kind of sucks. But also considering that 2/3 of my party was, or 3/4 of my party was MC, Junpei and Yukari. It kind of didn't matter because Junpei would just carry with physical, Yukari would keep Junpei alive, and obviously MC's there. But having standby XP would have been pretty cool to have. There's the clock later on. I just kind of feel like it's a band-aid solution when you could have just implemented backup XP. I wish the MC could still wield multiple weapon types because I think that kind of brought a uniqueness to P3's combat. But also, like, it doesn't matter once you get more personas and other party members and stuff because they'll be able to cover whatever physical elements you need. But it would still be cool if he could wield. Maybe when the Answer DLC comes out, we'll figure out a way to code that because I guess we'll be using Pierce. So, who knows? But I'll talk about that later. I think that's all I have in regards to Tartarus. Oh yeah, the boss scaling. The Tartarus like Guardian scaling. It's not what it used to be, but it's still kind of funny at times. The Tartarus bosses are still scaled kind of funny, but they're not what they used to be, unfortunately. They did come to their senses on that. And I think in terms of Tartarus stuff, it's about all I got, but there's also the full moon bosses, which I think the revamp that they got definitely worked to their benefit. I can't really recall a lot of them off the top of my head. I only remember Fortune because of the wheel, and then there's Hangman because of his stupid attack that gives him more turns, but I'd say that the full moon bosses were definitely better in reload, right? Although they made it where you can't insta-go Fortune with Ghastly Whale anymore, so, RIP. It's made it where you can't manually control the wheel, which, I guess makes sense, because it was stupidly easy to exploit, and if you're just gonna make it spin for an undetermined amount of time, when you hit the button, just remove hitting the button and just make it spin on its own anyway. But I also feel like Fortune, in Reload, you didn't, even without the cheese, it still died in like one turn. I think I literally killed it in one turn cycle. As soon as I could, because it's weak to strike for whatever reason, and Junpei's literally right there. So I think outside of that, I literally just remove Fortune's weakness to strike. Just remove its weakness, period, honestly, and I think it's fine. I think Lovers gave me the most problems because I didn't have things, the first time I fought it, I didn't have that many ways to get rid of Charm, so I was kind of screwed by Charm a lot of the time, and then I went out, I bought more Discharms, and what do you know, I didn't struggle with Charm as much, so that was fun. And then, well, finally, Nyx. Nyx it's a weird fight for me to describe. Obviously it's better. It's a way better fight. It's way more unique, and I really like that they made Nyx kind of use the special moves of that Arcana Shadow. So when it got the Hangman Arcana, it used the move to give it more turns and stuff. I thought that was really cool. Because Nyx is, summoned by those shadows dying, so of course it would have access to its movesets. So I think that's really cool that they did that. And I think I almost died to Nyx twice because of Mobius Rondo critting MC. That was very scary. I almost died a couple times, but luckily I didn't, because that would have been heartbreaking. But yeah, no, Mobius Rondo was probably the scariest part, and the closest I came to dying to Nyx. Other than that, infinitely better fight, especially because they removed the move in the final phase that like made Nyx invulnerable, so it pretty much just got the setup on you. I always thought that was kind of stupid. Like I get it's trying to feed into the whole Nyx is undefeatable thing. It just kind of sucks as a gameplay thing. Like as a story lore thing, like oh my god, that's cool. And then you actually play it, and it's like wow, this sucks. I can't do anything. Especially with how you know original P3's combat was. It's like yeah, this kind of sucks. I'm sure if it was in Reload, it'd be a little better because you can at least properly refresh buffs and stuff, buffs and debuffs and whatnot. But it would probably still suck. And also, I feel like 3G would pierce it anyway, so who cares? But no, definitely like the overhaul to the main bosses of the game. I think they were really good, and also Elizabeth. I like what they did with Elizabeth because it's just a more fun fight. So if you do the fight as intended and don't do any funny business, you get her down. Like the fight's pretty much the same. Obviously they remove the Masakata Megidolin, one shotting you because you don't have infinity anymore. Um, but then you get her to I think 13,000 HP. She'll cast an insta kill Megidolin, and then you have a couple turns to get her below 10,000, and then she'll heal back to full, and then phase 3 it's just chaos. It's nothing but chaos. There's no pattern, no anything. And that's what I genuinely was having so much fun with that fight because there was no pattern, there was no predictability. I didn't know what Elizabeth was going to do next. I had to actually think about what action I was about to do. And it was genuinely a really, really fun fight, and I would recommend it. The only problem is you do have to do a lot more setup this time, because you can't just rely on Telos anymore, because of how the fight works, right? So that's unfortunate. And speaking of, thank God for Telos being in the game, because yippee. And now, on to Strega, I guess. Strega, to me, always felt like the side villains, kind of, because they're not the looming threat. I'm sure Seas doesn't care about Strega as much as they do, say the Full Moon Shadows or the End of the World, right? And if you think of Strega as just kind of side villains, like it makes a lot more sense of like what their inclusion was. Even though they're trying to be pushed as main character, as like the main villains or whatever, I still feel like they were just kind of side villains. In Reload, we do get a lot more backstory about them, but it tries to push them into this kind of main-ish villain role when it doesn't really fit what I think they're trying to do with Strega. Like yes, we know why Strega's the thing, but they're not that much of an obstacle, honestly. There's 2 Strega fights in the entire game. Well, I mean, if you want to get technical, it's technically 4 because it's 3 because you have the Moonlight Bridge fight, and then you have the Jin fight on the 31st, and then the Takaya fight. The Chidori one isn't a fight anymore. It's just a cutscene basically, right? So it's like 3 fights, right? The Moonlight Bridge one, and then the 2 on the final day of the game. But that's the thing, is they're I don't really think they're supposed to be main villains, and I think that's probably a lot of people's issue with Stregas. They're trying to make him out to be this main villain, but I've always viewed them as kind of the side villain because they're not really the main danger at any point, right? Except for like the Hangman Full Moon, right? The Moonlight Bridge fight, and then obviously the climb to Nyx. But outside of that, they're not really a threat. So at least like the main threat, right? because it's always the shadows, it's always the full moon shadows, and eventually the end of the world being the main threat. So, but in terms of what they could have done within the bounds of Reload, I do think they handled Strega like so much better within the bounds of what they could do. But also, like, you could have probably put like another fight somewhere in there, right? And lastly, one last and I guess to kind of cap this section off, the new battle outfits that Seed's got. I don't know how I went this long without mentioning it. They're sick, right? Just that's the point. But no, they're sick, and the fact that they actually do have a gameplay reason to exist is pretty cool. With the armbands, monitoring vitals and stuff that tells you when your theurgy's done, and all that, and the new outfits in general, I just think are cool. It's really funny that I just didn't get one, but we did also get Orgia mode, and how good that looks. So, yeah. And now onto general things out, and not onto the stuff outside of the Dark Hour, right? The visuals were about what I expected from the trailer, which is a good thing, by the way. I'm not saying that to bash the game. The visuals are pretty much what I expected them to be, which is really good looking. There's a couple weird areas, like the ramen shop. It just kind of... It's more so the characters look weird in the ramen shop than the ramen shop looking weird. But like, I think outside of that, and funny haha dorm lighting, and the next fight being really green, which is just... I don't really think it's... The visuals... Like, people were freaking out about them, like, pre-launch, and I just don't think it was necessary, because it looks good. But, you know what? People call something soulless if they don't agree with it, so I've given up. Menus. The menus in this game are absolute peak, like, menu design, if you ask me. So peak, in fact, that people think when you're talking about the visuals of the game, you're talking about the menus, because anytime, like, discourse about the visuals pops up, everyone immediately replies with the same, like, 4 screenshots of the menu, and it's so funny. Again, I think the actual visuals of the game outside of the menu do look really good. I really do like them. I do have a couple of nitpicks at places, right? But outside of that, I'm happy with the visuals and stuff. The menus, I think, the menus and just the UI in general, it's so good. It's so good because it's just beautifully crafted. Like, I can't think of the words that properly describe what I feel when I look at these menus and navigate them. They're clean, they're easy to understand and traverse through, and they're just stylish, but in P3's own way, right? It's not over the top like P5's, because that's not the type of game P3 is. I think P3's menus work because it's P3's menus. Right, you try to do that in P5 and it doesn't work, because P5 is a very different game. It's very much more over the top and very flashy. The menu reflects that. P3 is it's a lot slower. It's more... It's a lot more soft, right? And the menus reflect that perfectly. It's incredible how good the menus are in this game. It's just, it's incredible. It's genuinely incredible. I don't have the words to describe the menus. I feel like it's just something you kind of have to see for yourself of how good they are. I'm sad that there's no animated loops of them yet. I hope they get made someday, because holy crap, does it look good. And speaking of visuals, the last month of the game, right, January, I think is some, because the thing is, like, I already liked January in the original game, purely on like a on like the world building and like visual storytelling, right? It was already like my favorite thing in a game ever, and then Reload cranks it up to 11 because immediately, as soon as January 1st hits, you already notice the dorm is grayscaled, like the carpet at least is grayscaled. The lighting's definitely not what it was before, right? But as the month progresses, it gets darker and darker, which is everything I wanted from January and Reload. But it's getting darker. The colors are getting a lot more muted. Um, there's more and more Lost building up as the days go by. The um the like Nick's like the Nick's group logo thing. I don't remember what the thing is, but like the symbol that's like plastered all over the game, like all over the in game areas and stuff of Nick's the like the Nick's cult symbol. That's what it is. The Nick's cult symbol being pasted literally everywhere, and it just building up more and more and more, and the people are just, they're kind of like, yeah, the end of the world's coming, like there's no point, like they're just losing hope and succumbing to the to apathy syndrome. And again, in terms of world building and visual storytelling, it is peak. It is perfection, because it tells the story so well of what's happening. It's perfection. I just don't know what else to say past that. Um, so I'm gonna move on. Life Sim was, you know, like, there's definitely more stuff to do, right? But and especially nighttime, because nighttime needs it. God knows nighttime needs it, because outside of the two social links and stat grinding, it's like, what are you gonna do? But now there's the URLs, there's the like the plant stuff that you can do, and the like member hangouts where you can cook with them, or you can read with them, or like watch a movie, and that'll go towards like giving you combat benefits with the characteristics, or if you cook with them, then you get like an HP or SP restoring item. It's nice, but and I mean, yeah, that's just kind of the point. It's very nice. I'm glad that they added it, because it gives you more things to do, and especially like with cooking and gardening in particular, especially late game, those are typically like what I spent my nights doing, or just going to bed, or walking Kormaru, right? Because I mean, yeah, give me more good, restorative items, and making the garden give me more stuff, which I didn't expect to keep up with the garden as much as I did, but I did, and I think I never really missed an opportunity for it. Like, it was insane how well I kept up with the garden, right? Elizabeth requests are handled a lot better, because they removed a lot of the kind of stupid deadlines. A lot of quests in the original probably just, they had deadlines just to have deadlines, and they just kind of removed it because it's kind of stupid. There's some that make sense to have deadlines, like getting the documents from Tartarus, right, from the top of like the block you're on or whatever. But oh well, right. In terms of the modeling work, these models are so well made. You can tell that they really um, like put effort in with these models. That's just kind of how I feel about Reload. Is pre-release, they were talking about how they about stuff like how they're trying to respect the original while also injecting their own vision into it. And you can definitely tell that, like, the people working on this game loved P3. You can absolutely tell. Because, yes, there's some miscellaneous things that were cut for one reason or another, and there's definitely some weird decisions within that cutting and other stuff. But outside of those, it's like, but you can't say that like they didn't put their heart into it. They really tried with Reload, and it paid off, obviously. Um, but Reload, you can just tell that they really made this with respect for the source material while also putting in like new ideas, right? It's so good. And the 3D like end engine cutscenes are really really good. I do prefer kind of the 2D anime cutscenes, which have been heavily cut down, unfortunately, which sucks because I really like their style. Um, but the 3D end engine cutscenes have come so far. Like, they look amazing. They look really good. And of course, there are some weird choices with what they made a 3D like cutscene and what they made with a 2D one. A lot of 2D cutscenes in the original were remade in 3D, but yet they kept some in 2D here. I don't really know. And the only cutscene that I would call a downgrade would be the like first cutscene of the game, not Full Moon Full Life. It's like the first like proper cutscene that you see in the game. Because I went and rewatched the first one, and it's just the Reload one just doesn't hit the same. But like, if that's my only complaint with the cutscenes, is that first one doesn't hit the same kind of high that the old one did, that's pretty good. Like, I really liked how the cutscenes looked and stuff. It was amazing. Um, and who knows? Maybe P6 will have more kind of 3D cutscenes instead of relying on the anime cutscenes so much, which I will miss because there was a certain kind of charm to the anime cutscenes, especially in Reload, um, where they I really liked the style of them. But if they want to move away from that, that's their decision, right? Remixes, the pretty much the entire soundtrack got remixed, and I think it's good. There was definitely a lot of contention about it pre-release, and I had some thoughts about it pre-release, but now that the game's been out and we've been able to play the game that these tracks were remixed for, they're good. They're good. Some of them, like Afternoon Break, suck. But like, I've warmed up on a lot of them. Like, I wouldn't call it like most of the remixes bad. It's really just personal preference. But I really don't think they sound that bad. I kind of had that opinion before launch. There was a couple that I was kind of iffy on, mostly when Moon's Reaching Out Stars, which I've weirdly warmed up to, despite calling it bad pre-release. Afternoon Break is kind of the only one where I can definitively say I do not like. The others are just, they're either side grades or better, right? And the new tracks, all the new tracks are so good. Um, the new tracks, specifically Color Your Night and and the opening Full Moon Full Life. Holy crap, dude! And it's going down. Pretty much all the new tracks just kind of hit really really good. Color Your Night might just be like my favorite nude song that they made for Reload, honestly. Like, it's really good. It it's really really good. I That's all I can really say about it. Full Moon Full Life. It doesn't hit the highs that burn my dread, right? And maybe that's the nostalgia talking, but it hits. It hits good, and I think I still don't really know where I'd put it in like the list of Persona openings. But it's good. Like, I really like Full Moon Full Life, especially after you get past the intro bit, right? The Once you listen to the full version, it's like, oh, they cooked really good with these, and it's going down now, being the ambush theme. It's contagious with like how catchy it is. It really is, And then the remix that honestly I was worried about the most was Kimi no Kyoku, because it's like I could live with the rest of the soundtrack being subpar if Kimi no Kyoku was done justice. And while I think the original still hit a little harder, Kimi no Kyoku Reload definitely lives up to what I expected it to. Like, it was a high bar for me. But the credits mix specifically, having that violin, I don't know what happened, but when I heard that violin, it evoked something in me, dude. I started crying, like, even more than I already was, right? Like, that violin hit like a truck, dude. And of course, the rest of the song still hits. I still think that it's the best on just like the best. Period. That's all I have to say. I think it's just the best P3 song. It's really good, and Reload, the Reload version definitely hits what I wanted it to. It was good. It was very good, and I'm happy that they nailed Kimi no Kyoku. And of course I've warmed up to the rest of the remixes, so I wouldn't say it's a mediocre soundtrack anymore. Yeah. Speaking of, yeah, the ending still hit really, really hard, despite me kind of knowing, and I think the knowledge of knowing might have made it worse, because I remember specifically the one moment that I think got me the most was during Koromaru's, I think it's his last Link episode. It's very clear that Makoto wants to adopt Koro, and it's obvious that Koro wants to go with Makoto, but he's not gonna get to, and that just hurts, dude. That hurts so much, knowing that he's not gonna get to bring Koromaru with him. And yeah, speaking of actually Link episodes, I think they're better than Social Links. I mean, then again, P3's Social Links are definitely the most primitive. They're not the most interesting. At times, it kind of does feel like the criticism of one conversation split up into like 10 parts. I think Reload definitely did what it could with this. I don't remember a lot of the original P3 Social Links, if I'm being honest. But from what I do remember, it's like, yeah, like Reload, did what it could. And I definitely think they're a lot better in Reload, especially because of the voice acting, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But the Link episodes just kind of felt like what the Social Links should have been. But also, like, the Social Links were how P3 Social Links were, so, like, I'm not surprised that they're like that. But they're still good. I wouldn't call them bad. They're just, you can tell it's, like, the first time they tried the system, right? But, yeah, no, the P3 Social Links, outside of Moon and Magician, I'd say we're really good. Akanari still hit. Sun, I think, is his Arcana. Akanari still hit really hard. Like, yeah, like, I think the Social Links are good, but, like, the Link episodes were just, you could definitely tell that they were, like, a new thing. But also, I just kind of like the concept of the Link episodes, because it's just, I mean, it's basically just it's a different kind of Social Link, but I kind of liked it, honestly. Right. And overall, I think in terms of how to do a remake, I think Reload's a good example. It's not the best example because, Femc and The Answer didn't make it into launch. Right. So there was significant content cut. So it's not definitive. But I think overall it serves as a good example of how to do a pretty solid remake. And speaking of, well, I mean, hey, The Answer's coming anyway. It's been data mined and also leaked by a very reliable leaker. So, yeah. Because Reload feels like it definitely patches up a lot of the issues with SFS. It definitely seems like a death by a thousand cuts kind of thing for a lot of people. Like obviously you have the major thing with Tartarus, but outside of that, it's like there's all these little problems that kind of build up for a lot of other people. It feels, and Reload definitely does its best to patch them while still retaining the original experience, and I think it does a good job. Um, Backtracking a little bit to the voice acting, yeah, the voice acting is really good, especially the social links, but also for the main party. I feel like everyone was too harsh on them pre-release, but also to be fair, we didn't have the entire game in our hands, so we were only being shown, snippets, which I don't think was really enough to get a like full opinion. But I know Akihiko's VA got slammed a lot, and I always said that it was just gonna be an adjustment thing, and what do you know? I was correct. It is just an adjustment thing. You just have to get used to it, and it's not bad, right? I wouldn't say any of them did a bad job, right? Um, I still don't really know why they made Akihiko's voice so deep, but it's not the fault of the voice actor. He still does a really good performance as Akihiko. Um, and then, Social Link's being voiced. Every single Social Link being voiced makes such a difference. Like, I knew it'd make a difference. I didn't realize how much of a difference it'd make, honestly. It's kind of insane how much of a difference it made having all of these Social Links voiced for all 10 episodes, and it's definitely a new standard going forward for this series. So, that's cool. And I think I've covered everything, honestly, outside of they put the Nuva on the OST and art book on Steam, which is really, really funny. Um, yeah. No, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to. I'm trying to like rack my brain. Oh yeah, new story editions. They 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 took some cues from the movies, but I wish they did more, like introducing Ken and Shinji earlier and building their relationship more before, you know, Ken finds out about Shinji being his mom's killer, and then him plotting his whole revenge. It's kind of about it. And if I do end up playing the Answer DLC, which I don't know if I will, I kind of don't want to, but I also want to give it like a fair shot with it being like remade. I'll try to keep it on my mind, and maybe I'll do like an addendum video if I do, but I don't know. But yeah, I think I covered everything. I think that's everything. I'm like going through my notes right now, and I don't think I missed anything. So thank you if you've made it this far. Thank you for listening to me ramble about this video game for almost an hour. Um, I want to make more stuff in the future, but I also don't have that many ideas, so we'll just see what happens and what I end up doing. But yeah, that's about all I have to say. Stay hydrated and take care.